Welcome back to Conversations in Pop Culture. As always, I'm your host, Andrew Davis. And before I introduce my guest to everybody, I do want to remind everybody that whether you like this show or you like my cosplay guest or you even like corporate media, you need to support it, and in particular, financially support it, because these things do not get made without monetary support. And if you don't support it, but you still like it and it goes away, don't come bitching to me because, well, you know the reason why it disappeared. But enough of my PSA here, because I do want to introduce my cosplay guest. I have with me Darien Turner. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is a true pleasure and more words that mean good things to be here.
You know, I'm very excited because I saw you on Cosplay Alliance, and I'm like, oh, this is super cool because you got some really interesting cosplays. And I know you're new to cosplay. And before we really get into the fun stuff and go through some of your cosplays, I am really curious how you got into cosplay, because it's so interesting how people discover it and how people get into it. And I'm curious how your journey into cosplay occurred.
Um, I guess honestly, the first way I got into, like, I've been in the comic books like my entire life. Like, I was reading Marvel when they were still 65 cents in that little top little corner, and they stole them in the stands at 7-Eleven. I was into the books for a long time, but I didn't know cosplay was a thing outside of like San Diego Comic-Con, and I would only see that on the news, and it seemed just like a clusterfuck, and I was like, I don't really want to go see that. But then I met a friend that does go to cons, and he and I went to LA Comic Con just to go up there and just do that mill around the crowd and see everybody outside. And that was my first introduction to it, but I didn't dress up. I think I had like just a Yu-Gi-Oh shirt or Dragon Ball Z or something or other. But that was my first introduction to the community. But I didn't really dress up. I think we went 2 days, and the next day I wore like a Captain America shirt or something, and I went back. But then right after that, I didn't go, and then the pandemic hit. So when we were all like stuck in the house, I was doing like everybody else did. Like, I was making sourdough bread and pies and cakes, but I was eating them all by myself. So I said, I can't keep doing this. I need another hobby. And um, I had this old leather harness, the like sex harness. And I was like, I can repurpose that. And I don't know why. It's like, for some reason, it just reminded me of Storm when she went to the punk phase with the mohawk. So I was like, I think I can make a whole costume around this. And I did it, and I did it like that. And I purposely made the torso out to force myself to stop eating cakes and bread all by myself, and like order an exercise bike and get some weights and work out in my house because the gyms are closed. So I was like, okay, my motivation is, I'm not trying to be fit. I'm not trying to be healthy. I just want to be able to wear this costume without looking like a complete fool. So that got me through the pandemic. It was like motivation. So that's kind of how I got into it. Now, I didn't realize, when I was making that costume, I had no idea where I was going to wear it. It was literally, I'm just going to make the costume, and if I can ever have the audacity to wear it, then I'll just figure out a place to go. And then Dragon Con starts showing up. I was like, oh, this is perfect. So it all just kind of came together. And I ended up showing it at Dragon Con, which was amazing, which was fucking amazing. That was an amazing experience.
So let's even talk about this, because I don't know if this was your first one, it was your first build of a cosplay, but what was that even like, saying, hey, I'm going to just go jump into it? Because that's kind of crazy. That's not normal how this starts for most people. Like, no offense, but like most people sort of come up with an idea. They don't just go out and go big and go home on their first one. And so what like, how did like you even say, I gotta cut this here or sew it here or piece it together or even build it? Because that's what I'm curious about, because this is
uh,
so
Thank you. Okay, well, being completely 100% honest, I was smoking a lot of weed also. And I was like, I think I can build. So your mind just starts wandering on stuff. And then one day I was like, I think I can figure out how to put lights into these pants, and figure out how to like do this and the other. And I just started doing it. And everything is online. Like, you can find these bits and pieces of things online. So I was like, well, let me order this. And then if this works out, this works out. And things all start working out. I didn't even think about, is this really possible? I was like, let me just give this a shot. What was funny is, when I was doing stuff, I was going online looking for other people who had did it, because I figured, like, this has been done. Like, a lot of this stuff has just already been done. I'll just find somebody who's done it and just copy them. But a lot of stuff, nobody had done it, and I just like, oh, okay. I just thought this was a kind of a common thing, but it was my, I don't know.
So why Storm of all people? I mean, I like Storm from the X-Men. I like J. Scott Campbell's interpretation of her, with the mohawk and that stuff. But like, why Storm? Like where did that idea even come from? Because it's just so out there of like a punk rock gender bended Storm.
Um, I guess the easy and quick and obvious answer once it's said thing is I love the X-Men because they're the outcasts. I love Storm because she was a black strong mutant. I'm black, I'm gay, I have a disability. There's all these check marks that I would click off. I was like, well, I'm alone in the world, nobody understands my plight. And then you read about the mutants who are discriminated just for who they are and everything else. So I was like, oh well, I'll just attach to that. And Storm just always stuck out to me as a character because throughout her entire mythos in the book, she's always remained like that kind of stalwart, strong. No matter what the situation is, she's still that character. Even when she lost her powers and all the whole bit, I was like, she's still Storm, and I always kind of identified with that. I kind of took on the whole hero's ethos from reading the books. Like, if you see somebody weak, and you're stronger, go help. If you always stand up for what's right, never forget yourself, and all that kind of stuff. So she's always just kind of embodied all of that for me. So when it just kind of popped in my head to come up with that costume, it just seemed like it seemed obvious. So I just went with it.
And so even to go further into it, I'm going to show a picture of it just because that's what we do here. This is one of the pictures of it, and
it's so sick. I love that.
So, like, what was it even like to just build, Storm's mohawk? Because that's pretty cool in that one, and even just coming up with like just the conceptual design of this. And I'm going to show it again right here. Like, it's so just, it's almost like Storm was in the '90s in a punk rock band, like rocking out, and it like, how was this not done before? Is my question. Like I don't know how to explain that question to anybody, but like, this is so fucking cool. And like, was it just like one of those things you were just like, I'm just going to dive into it and see what the hell happens? Or did you have an idea of what you wanted? Or did it all just come piece by piece by piece? And you're like, oh shit.
It kind of came piece by piece because the first piece that I built was the actual harness part. Because under the harness, it's those the neon light strips, like the strips. I start cutting those and I figured out how to splice them. First, I had to figure out how to power it because it's a lot of power. So on my back, there's this bag that has a I don't know what the name of the battery is, but it's a pretty big battery. So I was able to figure out how to plug that portable battery in, hook up a remote control system to turn it on and off, and have that on my back and power the light. So once I built that and the lights came on, I was like, okay, I can figure out the rest of this. So once the harness was working, everything else just kind of started building on top of that. I figured out the pants. The only thing I didn't think of, well, I thought about heat, and I was like, I don't want this to burn me, so it didn't burn. But I was also like, this might make me go fertile because I got this light just beaming down on my crotch. But once it started, this is also, I was ordering a lot of stuff during the pandemic, so a lot of stuff would come really slowly. So it gave me a lot of time to really figure out the nuances and the bits and pieces, waiting for stuff to come. So once it starts showing up, and once something worked, and I tried, and I was like, "Oh shit, that actually worked." I just kept going forward until either something didn't work or it just turned into the full build. So when it was finished, now the wig, my partner, he's really really good at knowing all of that style and beauty and all that kind of stuff. So he actually hooked me up with somebody who got the wig for me. But so I couldn't do
let's
that.
even talk about that a little bit, because one of the things that's really cool about cosplay, and I know you're new, is that I'm a strong believer that if you order a cosplay and you wear it, that's cool, because the point of cosplay is it's supposed to be costume play. It's supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be stressful or, I guess, aggressive, for lack of a better word. It's supposed to be fun. So if you just want to order a costume and wear it, I think that's cosplay as much as building it is. And so what is this like? Because really, it seems that you ordered pieces, you modified pieces, you played with the lights and the electrifying, and you really had a nice fusion minus the wig. of taking, ordered pieces, modifying, and then also customizing it. And what was that like, really figuring that out? Because I think that is a really cool way, and I think it shows what can be done when you do it that way, and it works. And this thing looks fucking sick.
Oh, thank you. Like I said, I think sometimes when you're new to a thing, you don't know what you're not supposed to be able to do. Like I had, it's not like I was hanging around a lot of people with cosplay. That was another, when I went to Dragon Con and saw the amazing creativity there. Honestly, I think that would have probably tripped me up, because I would have been like, I need to be able to build like that guy. Like I need to be able to build my stuff out. Like I don't work with foam and I don't do 3D. And I was seeing people, I was like, oh my god, like I gotta be able to work with foam in order to really be in this thing. So a lot of stuff that I was doing, I just did it because I thought it was possible. So there was nothing saying you can't do this or you shouldn't do. Like I didn't ask. Like it was smoke machines connected
So,
to me. I didn't ask if I could use smoke. So a lot of stuff I just did it because it just came in my head, and I was just like, and so once it worked out, once I conceptualized it, and then it worked out, that just motivated me to keep trying just different stuff.
so let me ask you a question. Do you think that, because I speak to cosplayers, and obviously I'm in the interview space and I'm in the comic space, and what I feel sometimes is that people tell people they can't do something, and that's very dangerous in my opinion. So it's very discouraging. Where there have been people who have told me I can't do A, B, C, and D, and then it trips you up and it messes you up because it challenges your confidence. First thing, when somebody says, "Okay, go do it," it doesn't, and you fail, you at least tried. And so, do you think that is somewhat of a problem with in the cosplay community from what you've seen? Is that, or are you just so new that, because that's what I sometimes see, is that you say, "Oh, don't do that idea," and I say, "Why not?" Right? Like, because it seems like
Yeah,
that's your experience. Is, I'm just going to go for it, and we're going to see what happens.
I see, how do I say this? I think when I had more anxiety going into the entire thing. Like I feel like I had prepared myself as far as my costumes, my cosplay, and my mindset to go. Like I had prepared myself because I stayed like in the Marriott hotel, like in the midst of it. I was there for like the full 4 or 5 days. So I was like, and I went by myself. So I was like, I'm just gonna do it. The costumes. There's no reason. I bought this stuff. I can't back out now. So when I went and I was actually in the community, that was the most amazingly supportive, creative community I've ever like really experienced in that mass. Everybody spoke. There didn't seem to me to be any kind of discrimination, and like no one, I didn't see anyone being excluded. You saw little kids being you saw people taking pictures with everybody. It was, I mean, people just, you're randomly walking by, they give you little trinkets and they give you ribbons, and it was one of those things where to me it felt so immersive and so embracing, and so like I'm walking around by myself, I just make these random pockets of friends. It was one of those things where to me the experience that I personally have was amazing. Now, before I went, I was on a lot of Facebook forums, so I'm reading as much information as I possibly can beforehand, and I got the sense that there was some issues, as in any community, there is some issues across the board with a lot of things. So, and I'm absolutely sure all of that exists because everyone has a different experience, but my own personal experience did not reflect a lot of the sentiment that I would see coming down in some of the forum posts and some of the communication about the experience. So to me, it always feels like I can hear what you're saying with your experience, but if I feel there's still enough merit for me to go, I'm going to give it a shot, and I'm going to go based on how I took it. And I had a great time. Like I will
I mean, I'm
definitely
not
go
a
back.
cosplayer. So, I mean, I just know that there are problems in the community.
Oh
I know
yeah,
there are horror stories, and there's horror stories on how a cosplay costume is run down to just somebody having a bad experience with a celebrity cosplayer. And so obviously, but then there's all these crazy stories too that people have a blast. So, but even for you as a new cosplayer, what was this like really going to your first con too? Especially because you never wore this costume and this cosplay out before. It's brand new in a lot of ways. It really hasn't been done. And you're by yourself. You don't even have like a friend going with you. You don't have, another character. You don't have, I guess, a veteran, for lack of a better word. So what was
yeah.
that like? Because that's kind of a weird experience. And I don't speak to many new cosplayers about their first experience. So
Um, it was great, and it's also I think that I use the experience as one of those opportunities to challenge myself to get out of the box. Um, what I found when I got there is there's so many people that are just like me or just like yourself once you get there because I'm naturally an introvert. I work through computers. I do as little personal in-person interaction with people as possible. So the social anxiety and everything else is always there, but I always feel like the best way to get over a lot of this stuff for me is just jump in the deep end of the pool and just deal with it, because a lot of times the problems I feel like I'm gonna experience are totally and completely in my head. I make up these scenarios that will never happen and these situations that just don't occur, and then when I actually do the thing I was like, wow, that was great. And I really, this was easy. This was easier for me to do because it was a situation where if this is a Comic Con, I at least know comics at the very least. Even if I'm by myself and don't talk to anyone, I'm in an environment of comics. I'll find something to do. Like I'll find something that can I can get into. But once I got there, it wasn't a problem. Like once you stepped out of the door, people, like I said, are so immediately sociable, and people are, and it's one of those things where people want to come up to you, and people are under impression that it's okay to speak and it's okay to talk. Plus there's a lot of drinking and alcohol, so people get very relaxed. So it was one of those things where once I stepped out of the door and just got into the community, it embraced me so quickly that I didn't really have to worry about what I'm going to do. I feel lonely or feel by myself. It was just as soon as you walk out, it was just a party, like a complete party. So it was amazing.
even to talk about that too, because Dragon Con obviously is a very, very, well established convention. They've been around for a while. They're very popular, obviously down in Georgia. It's one of the bigger cons down in that area. And so, what was the reception and how did people view this and even their response to this? Because, I mean, just from the pictures and just this picture alone, this thing is pretty freaking sick in the way it looks. And what was the reaction to people? Because I've never seen anything like it. And I was scrolling through Cosplay Alliance. I'm like, oh shit, like, let me reach out. And I'm going to say something where you don't have a big Instagram following, but I'm like, oh snap, like this is actually a really cool cosplay. This is
Oh,
interesting.
thanks. I'm like so completely new to any kind of social impact. Like I'm not even in my name thing. I didn't think to put my like Instagram tag in there because this is all like brand new to me. So um, when I went, one of the things, like I'm already 6'1", so when I add the wig, that's like another 3 feet. So I'm kind of obvious when I'm walking through the crowd, and then you add the lights and my hand. I had two props for my hand. One was this electric hologram that once it's spun, yeah, that once it's spinning, it gives this holographic effect. And the other one, in the other picture, there's smoke coming out of my hand because I attached a smoke machine to some. Oh, that's one of the other things that I built. That was actually going to be a prop that I was going to walk around in Dragon Con with. I was like, this is probably too much. I'm not going to do that.
I don't have the smoke machine. I don't have that one. So I'm sorry, everybody.
No, that first picture that you showed, like that smoke that's coming from the hand, that's coming from a smoke machine. No, the very first one that you showed. Yeah, that one. That smoke that's coming out of my hand. Um, so once I'm walking through a crowd with the wig, and then you see the lights, and then you see all the rest of that stuff, it got attention. So every time I would stop, so someone would ask me for a picture, I would stop, and then like a crowd of people would come around that first person. So I was just kind of stuck there for like a moment taking pictures, and that's when the social anxiety kicks in. Because then I'm like, okay, I'm feeling really nervous now. I'm gonna step away. So that was the only little kind of weird bit, but even that was, I mean, that's amazing. Like people want to stop you and give you, compliments and ask you questions. That's, I mean, that's not a bad experience. It was great.
And then to even go further into the other side of it is that obviously I was not at Dragon Con. I'm in Connecticut. Georgia is a long drive down. And nothing against, it's probably like at least a good 15 to 18 hours of a drive. But I found you on social media. And so what has the response been on social media? Because right now in cosplay, I feel and in everything in general. There's the in-person experience, but then there's also the social media experience, and cosplay tends to lend itself in a very social media environment. So how has that been? Because that is 24/7. You know what I mean?
It's been amazing. Like I wasn't expecting a response at all because like, I'm not a content maker. I'm not on YouTube. I don't have a social media presence. I just like to do stuff and then I'll just put pictures on my Instagram. And for me, it's just like I just want a reminder that I did a thing. So let me just put a picture on this thing. So when my pictures start getting around and I start getting requests or messages from people. First, I was like, "What are you talking about?" And then they would show me some pictures that someone else took. Then I'm looking around and I would see some YouTube videos or I would see some pictures of people who just were at Dragon Con and I would just be there and I was like, oh wow, I didn't know that was the thing. Like this, like I like you reaching out to me and asking me to do this. I was in no way expecting to do this. To me, this is just all part. This is like DLC content. This is awesome. Like after the whole thing went over, I got like some more content out of it
So,
that
so
I'm
to, to,
really
to even
enjoying.
go further into that as well, I mean, obviously, Cosplay Alliance, they, I guess, repost and post, really top cosplayers who have 600 to a million, followers. They also have reposted, some of my friends, like, because I'm Nikki and a few other people. And so, what is that like for you, too? Because, and I say it's the nicest way. I mean, you're at the beginning of your career, but it still is nice when a pretty, well established Instagram account that crosses the border and deals with the top and the bottom, for lack of a better word, is promoting you and sharing your picture around and going up to bat for you. And what is that like? Because I think it reminds people that there's talent everywhere, and doesn't matter if you have 1 million followers or 100 followers. If your cosplay is good, it should be shared.
I'm taking it. One, I'm extremely flattered. Like I said, I did not think. One, I thought my cosplay was good enough for me, but I figured like a lot of this stuff has been done, or people have seen this. This is not really going to be a thing. Like that first picture that you showed of me with the mohawk. Someone else, when I was taking that picture, someone else was taking that picture for me, and then this photographer asked me to take that picture, and then he set up a light, and then he edited the picture and he put it back out, and that picture started. Like I wasn't expecting any of that kind of stuff. So um when I started to get a response, I'm just super flattered. And I also, because it's not like I'm trying to draw people to my social media so I can promote myself or try to, I'm just like taking the ride of it. It's like, oh, I'm flattered that someone saw my stuff. It was like, we want to repost your stuff and we wanted to bring attention. I'm starting to get people who are trying to follow me. I'm like, listen, the next 4 posts are probably going to be me making a cake or me like, just doing some random thing. I'm not like, I cosplay. I'm just in the middle. I'm just beginning of it, but I'm not a person that's putting up pictures and content like every day. And I don't feel like any pressure to, because I'm really just doing, this is one of those things when you start a hobby and you're literally just doing it because you enjoy it, and then all of a sudden people start paying attention to you and looking at it, and I'm like, well, this is just, I'm just doing a thing. It's like Forrest running. It's like, I just wanted to run. I wasn't trying to start a big thing. I just wanted to run. So, I'm kind of at that stage now. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't know where this is going to take me. But right now, I'm in that. I'm just doing this because this is purely an enjoyment for me. I don't feel any pressure in any kind of way. And if anyone enjoys it, thank you. I'm super flattered. So I'm just kind of in that space right now where it's just pure enjoyment.
And then the other one I want to talk about, and I think this is yours too. I think this is an early one too. And then correct me if I'm wrong, because I could be off base, but is this one
Oh,
right here?
that one is me. That was I think I want to say that was the LA Comic Con. That was I bought most of that off of Etsy. Etsy is like a great site. I love people who make things and just personally put stuff up. Like all the leather pieces came from different people on Etsy. It's supposed to be an alchemist. If you look real close, there's like uh potions on his shoulder, and there's like spell papers and everything else. That's when I kind of started working with lighting, because all that lit stuff on there is things that I added to it. I think that was my first attempt at trying to actually get into cosplay, but I just went off and bought somebody else's stuff. I was like, I'll just put their things on. So yeah,
So
that was that
let's
first
talk
shot.
about the thing. Let's talk about the thing that's really cool about that one, and it's actually the flame. Because I don't know if people noticed it, and you guys can all go back. That's an actual prop, and it's not edited in. And some photos look like it's hard to tell that that's an actual prop, but it's an actual prop, I think, right? Unless
Oh
I'm
yeah.
completely wrong, and otherwise, whoever edited that thing in is a genius. But what's the story of that? Because that's actually super cool. Because
That's
most people would rather edit that in rather than have an actual prop.
um I love practical effects, and I'm one of those people that'll get on the online and just like I will get on SD, and I'll just like randomly just scroll through things just to see what creative people have done. I came across that one. I think I came across that prop on SD before I started looking at the actual cosplay. I thought the prop was so cool. I was like, I gotta figure out some way to be able to buy this prop and have a purpose for it. So I think I got that prop first, and then I got all the rest stuff around it. Yeah, it's one of those things, and he comes in different colors. It's one of those things where it's the clear plastic that kind of holds it up, and if you're at a good enough distance, you can't see the clear plastic that's holding in your hand. I love practical effects. That's one of the other reasons I was excited to go to Dragon Con, because once I found that like hologram fan, and once I figured out how to make my hand smoke, I was like, I gotta go somewhere and show this. So After Effects stuff, I like After Effects, but I think one of the big enjoyments of cosplay is when you can make a thing that you can show this in person. Like I can show you this in person and have it as an actual thing, like right here.
No, because I think it's a nice thing when and look, this is where I get controversial. There's all these really attractive cosplayers and all these attractive women, and it's cool and they shoot great, but then they edit the photo and then they put like a certain background and all this stuff to it, and I'm like, but it does take away from it to a degree. It's like there is something to be said about shooting raw, and there's something to be said about having a photo at a con versus having a professional photo shoot. And it's just one of those things where it's like I feel like anybody at this stage can build a cosplay, have a professional photo shoot, and then table their cosplay and has no wear on it. It's not a little roughed up, and then you can fix everything that's wrong with your photo. There's something to be said about actually having a real problem and having something that looks a certain way, and then also trying to mask it so it looks like an after effect, but it's not.
I think I'm just now starting to get into the cosplay community as far as online, like as far as following certain people who just kind of do it as a as their content. So I've seen a few people that's like, okay, well, I see your cosplay. It's not for me. And then I've seen other people where I'm like, oh my God, you're just inspirational. Like I want to follow you just so I can figure out to inspire my own work. So I think it's one of those things because the community is so large. There's people across the board that represented in every kind of way. Because when I was there in the actual Dragon Con, I saw people across the board from all shapes and sizes. Now, I can recognize that if I can use like PC stuff, if there's a certain privilege that I can probably account for in my pictures. Like I know I'm fit, so I know I'm fit, and I know I have. So I understand that has a certain gives me a certain experience.
It goes even further. I mean, I could tell you that a blonde cosplayer is probably going to get a little more attention than a brunette. I could tell you that a disabled cosplayer is probably going to get less attention sometimes than an abled one, for lack of a better word. I mean, I hate to use the word abled because it's
Right.
not the greatest term. But I could tell you that. I could also tell that sometimes a plus size person will be overlooked for a thinner person, despite the workmanship or the craftsmanship or the skill level. And I mean, I know just on my realm, I walk on crutches. There are certain circumstances that I get overlooked, And then an hour later, I'm lecturing in front of 250 people at a con. And I'm like, well, what the fuck just happened? So, I think some of it is just the way we're born and we're bred as humans. I think some of it is also learned. I also
Yeah.
think some of it's just ignorance. And I also think that sometimes people, they have so much shit going on, their brain turns into laziness.
Yeah.
But I've seen it all.
Yeah, I mean, and I've for all the check boxes that I check off, I've experienced my own isms in things, so I completely understand. But I always feel like there's so much change I can make in the world. The only other thing I can change is my response to most things, and I've just found like if I look at things objectively, most times things are cool. Like people are cool, like things are cool. It's not really a horrible situation. The times that things are bad, they're bad. But if I try to look at it objectively, I'm like the world is not complete shit. Like this person is shit, but like the world is not complete shit. And I'll probably meet somebody 5 minutes from now that was cool. And I'll probably never I'll probably never see this person again ever in my life. So I'm not gonna let this moment,
it's
dour
interesting
everything.
because the way I interact with people is that for the most part, I would say when I used to go to cons, it was about 95% good and 5% bad. And if I'm dealing with somebody who has a perception or doesn't want to sell me a book because of this, or treats me or thinks I have an intellectual disability when it's a physical one, the way I view it is that we're negotiating at a very different level, and I want to buy this book now. I expect a little bit more of a discount now, and it's happening, and I've actually made more money. I believe in punishing people if they underestimate me.
That's awesome. Me too.
If you think I have an intellectual disability because of my physical disability, you could think that. If you think you're going to send me that book for $100, 80 sounds a lot better.
That's awesome.
I'll sell for 120 and I'll make more money. And you can think all you want about me. That's fine.
Awesome.
I don't personally care because at the end of the day, I'll be laughing to the bank.
There you go.
The bank doesn't discriminate against me. The bank, in fact, discriminates against everybody else.
Exactly.
Because I have more money. So there you go. See, the bank discriminates against people who are poor because they don't have any money and they're not their client. But anyway, I digress right there. Everybody's learning a lot of things about me tonight. This is totally going on TikTok.
This is a safe space. We're good.
There are no more safe spaces on this show. I can tell you that. This show 3 years ago started really high up, and now we have gone all the way down, and then some. But anyhow, to talk about a more positive note, I do want to touch upon your. Actually, I have a real question though. Actually, about going back to both Storm and the Alchemist. One of the things in cosplay that's actually really interesting is that how do you balance the cost? Because when you're piecing together something, cosplay, and I don't think it's a secret. This isn't controversial, and if it is, I'm in the wrong profession. Cosplay can get very expensive very quickly. Yeah. And wig styling is expensive sometimes. Good wigs are expensive. Props can be expensive. Props can be cheap. Materials can be expensive. And also one of the things is that time is also a thing too. And I think things have gotten better with supplies now. But I would say in COVID, in the US, I don't think it was terrible. But I know in Australia and in the UK, I've interviewed a few people from Australia, and they stocked up on supplies at the beginning of COVID because they ran out of shit. Mm-hmm. And so how do you manage that? Because, or has it not become a problem yet?
I guess the silver lining for me is when I made that first cosplay. I started at the beginning of the pandemic, so that was what 1,000 years ago, like 1,000 years now. Like what was it, 3 or 4 years now? So
it feels like 10. It feels like 10.
It feels like forever.
So like, I'm 29. I feel like I'm 39. That's what it feels like. It feels like it was 10 years ago when I was like 19. That's how it feels.
Yeah, it's completely skewed my perception of time. So. But I started building that Storm cosplay at the beginning of the pandemic. So first, like everything is slowed down. So, and most of those products, a lot of the things came from overseas or something. So a lot of those things took like months and months to come. Um, so I didn't feel a necessary time crunch because I didn't have any place to wear it. I was just wanted to make it. So there was no real time frame until I decided to go to Dragon Con and it still wasn't finished. And I was like, oh, I got to do this. So I had plenty of time, and because it took so long for like the supply demand to catch up and things took so long to get here, I was able to kind of just kind of take my time with the build. Now, as far as cost, because this is my first build, I didn't really have an idea of cost, and it got to a point where I was like, I'm not even going to think about the cost anymore.
So,
Like,
so,
if I
so
want
let
this
me
thing,
ask
I'm just
you
going
a
to get this
question about
piece.
that then. So obviously, people who build big cosplays and are building like maybe 6 or 7 a year, obviously they have to have more of a cost like this analysis. But if you have a decent job and you don't have massive expenditures, or you say, hey, look, this is just a hobby, and I have a $2,000 hobby fund for the year. It doesn't matter if it costs me $800 or if it costs me $1,000 because it doesn't impact my life.
Right.
And I have $2,000 to blow, and I'm not keeping track of it. Is that more of where you are right now as a cosplayer? And you're just like, hey, look, I just want to have fun with this, and it's keeping me occupied instead of baking a cake and eating it.
I still bake cakes and pies. Now I can give them away to people, so that's the good thing. Now that I have an idea of how much it costs really to build my one cosplay, I have a better perception of, oh, it literally costs this much to probably come pull something off. And for me, that cost is fine because I'm not like, it amazes me when I'm looking on some of these social media for some of these cosplayers that have content. I'm like, how do you make something every day? Like, how do you have like a different cosplay look like all the time? Because to me, that's another just thing that's funny is like people that are following me because of this. I'm like, I have no idea the next time I'm gonna put a cosplay up because I have nothing built. So I'm
it's
just now
tricky.
starting.
It's tricky when you have an OnlyFans or you have a Patreon or you have a loyal fans, and you have to produce something because the second you stop making content, the second those people cancel their subscription, the second they leave, and you know that's the whole thing. The second you lose a brand ambassador, all sorts of stuff. So clearly, it's a content perception game. So
Mhm.
they're making a prop, and that's what they do because that's their livelihood, and they need to make content, and they also need to have a lot of content in play because let's be realistic, ads on YouTube and advertising on YouTube is really, really shitty. It's pennies on the dollar.
Mhm.
And so you need a lot of content essentially. Um, but I think that on a hobby level, it's very different. I mean, I have hobbies that make me money, but this is a business. But this also has multiple effects and multiple layers that affect other things, and it's part of a bigger thing in my life. But again, content is king. That's why I do 4 to 6 interviews essentially a week,
Right.
because content is king. And I also understand that once it's recorded, it's out in play. But I digress. But it's interesting.
I am now that I've experienced, I do kind of have an obsessive kind of personality. So now once I've been to the con, I'm like, okay, I got to get a 3D printer now. Like, how do I work with foam? So I've already like allocated a space in my house. Like, this is my cosplay room now. Like, everything is going to go in here. So I'm kind of preparing myself for what the cost is going to be because like I do have like a certain amount that I'm like, okay, because it's a to me it's a healthy hobby. It's somewhere I can put my energy into, my especially creative energy. Like, I work in computers all day, so I'm very used to looking at life in zeros and ones. Like, I am super comfortable with code. So I like the cosplay because it forces me to think in a creative way. It forces my brain to use that side of it that I don't really get a lot of. And that creativity kind of helps me figure out other problems in the computer space because it gets me out of my logic box and makes me try different
This
things
is
and shoot for different
interesting.
things, and that really just kind of helps in my my
That's so
professional life.
interesting
Yeah.
because obviously I have figured out problems. I've figured out financial issues in my life because I've been interviewing for almost 10 years, and I've been running this, and it's very interesting. And obviously, when you're speaking to other people and you're in a social environment, or even when you're doing something, I used to play a lot with Legos, and it sounds crazy, but when you're building something, and even if you're following the instructions, and then you build it, and you're building a car, which I may or may not be buying one this Friday. Yeah, that'll be a fun Instagram post. It's expensive, guys. If anybody would like to donate to my Ferrari fund, it's a $450 Lego Ferrari set that weighs 15 pounds. I mean,
That's awesome.
I'm getting my first paycheck in like 3.5 years, and that's what I'm wasting my money on.
I overstand. Like I love toys, and I was like, there's no reason for me to have this. That's another reason why I love cosplaying. Like all this stuff that I'm getting is for a purpose, even if it's just to take a picture and show it at con. Like, well, there's a reason for me to have it, so I've justified it.
No, there's a reason why I'm buying this Ferrari, because it's an absolutely beautiful car, and I have a Lego car obsession. I spent a lot of money. I so on this.
Hey, what else is it for?
I have 5 in my garage right now. Only
awesome.
one of them is open. Only one of them is built. It's a problem. I mean, these things take like 40 hours to build.
That's sweet. Something to put your energy and time into.
When you have a 15-pound, I mean, it's 15 pounds of Legos. It's not a joke anymore. I mean, we're talking like 4,000 pieces, and these things take time to build. I mean, it's an awesome thing. It's like got like an 8-speed gear shifter, and it's sick. But anyway, far out. So far out. But again, if anybody would like to donate to my Lego Ferrari fund, feel free to. I'm buying it Friday, so if anybody would like to do it, and then you can watch me build
Lego
it while
Ferrari.
I stream. It'll be fun.
Sweet.
I'll put it behind a Patreon wall. It'll be Lego time with Andrew. It'll be drinking Lego time with Andrew.
There you go. You'll go viral.
So many bottles, guys. So many bottles. This show clearly is going to get me in trouble. I totally forgot where we're going with this with cost, but anyway, totally forgot. But anyhow, I figured this is a good time that I probably should need some good willpower. So,
well.
That was a bad transition.
No, I see what you did there. Willpower, Green Lantern.
It would have been funnier.
I totally got it.
It would have been much funnier if I brought up my Green Lantern power battery. I have a Green Lantern power battery.
Do you have that one? I saw so many different ones. Either people that made them or found them online. Like this, it was. That one I found it online, but I found like this green reflective material to like map over it. Like I made the harness and I made the bat. I think that's when I made that cosplay. Once I figured out how to make the light up bat, I was like, okay, I gotta figure out some reason to have this green bat. And the only thing I could think of was Green Lantern. And I like Green Lantern because there's a whole core. So I'm like, I'm just random Green Lantern from Section 6584.
That's cool right there. So I'm a big Green Lantern fan. I bought a 1-to-1 scale DC from like DC directly. Green Lantern power battery. It lights up with the ring. The ring goes to it. It's an awesome thing. I was going through a rough time in my life, so I bought it. Spent like $250 on it, worth every fucking penny. It's an awesome thing. I mean, they go for like $600-700 now. They're expensive because people want it. But one of the things is that I like about Green Lantern is that there's a bunch of them. There's a fucking planet Green Lantern.
Oh yeah.
There's a planet Green Lantern. Everybody, there's a planet that's a Green Lantern. It's awesome.
Mog, I think. Mog, something like that.
It's like Mago or Mago.
Yeah.
It's great. It's like freaking like I don't even know where its ring is, but it's a planet Green Lantern that has like a Green Lantern like embedded like the symbol in its grass. It's sick. I could write a whole fucking comic. If DC gave me a freaking character, oh my god, I would have like 50 issues of that planet. It would be great. Imagine the Green Lanterns are in a war and you have a planet on your side. Like
I was like, what does he go fight? Like, what does the planet have to go like show up for? And like, who's having a problem where like a whole planet Green Lantern like shows up for? It's like somebody broke into my car. Like, well, I'm not gonna show up. We don't need to bring the planet-sized Green Lantern in for that.
but we are so far out of bounds on this. So far, it's crystal clear that I love the Green Lanterns. I just love them. I think they're great. I think it's hilarious. I think you have a whole fucking army of Green Lanterns, and like, oh, it's great. I mean, the freaking Jeff Johns' like 20-issue run before he finished up was brilliant. From like the Rise of the Third and then the Wrath of the First Lantern. I mean, it was epic, and like the Red Lanterns and everybody else, and the connecting covers, it was great. The whole thing was just brilliant. But anyhow, I digress. So what was this like though? Because Green Lantern is well known, and obviously it could be any Green Lantern. And Green Lantern is a very modified character, meaning that I think you said it really well, where he could be a random Green Lantern just out in the galaxy. And he uses a baseball bat and he basically projects a baseball bat, which is fun, but it's also recognizable. That's the other thing too, is that I'm trying to think of another character that Deadpool is a good example of this, where if you put a pirate hat on Deadpool, you know it's Pirate Deadpool.
Yeah.
So what was this like, and how did even this concept come up? Because it's really brilliant, and it's so simple, but it's brilliant. Like I don't get it how it's so simple yet so brilliant that like nobody ever thought of it.
Oh, that one. That one kind of came around. I think it was funny. Like I had those two cosplays because Storm is like deeply personal to me, but Green Lantern, I've always just liked the concept of it. Like I love the core, and but there's never been like one particular. Like I was never super big Hal Jordan or John Stewart or Guy Gardner or anything. So I was like, I love this one Green Lantern. It was like I just love the concept of it, and when it came to my head, it's like I want to be a Green Lantern. I first thought like, okay, if I'm a Green Lantern, like I don't want to obviously have to be John Stewart. I don't want to obviously have to be the Black Green Lantern. I was like, and I don't want to be Hal Jordan. And then at some point I was like, well, I don't need to be any of those. I can just be a Green Lantern. And if I have enough of the iconic paraphernalia, like everyone knows what the Green Lantern symbol looks like. And if I'm green and you see a lantern on my side, then I'm like, well, he's Green Lantern. I may not know which one, but he's obviously a Green Lantern. And that concept just really appealed to me. Like I felt like I didn't have to be beholden to represent a character as that exact character. I could represent the concept in a way where you know who I am, even if you don't know this exact specific person, you still know that I'm obviously part of the Green Lantern Corps. And that idea just like really appealed to me. So I just kind of built everything else around that.
Yeah, and then just also the baseball bat and just how it glows green, and it almost is like a projection because the Green Lanterns, their power set is projections,
right?
Essentially, and then projecting something, whatever you could think in your mind, you can basically create from your ring. And so even that too, because that's also a nice touch of it. And again, it's not ultra hard. It's not a hard prop to carry, but it's sought after. I mean, it's a neon green baseball bat. Like, I mean, and I don't know how difficult the neon green baseball bat is, but it's also nice when, I mean, I don't know if you go to a rave afterwards, but it's way cool.
That's what I'm a little upset because I didn't realize how big and how long Dragon Con went. So I actually just stayed in the Marriott. I think I went to but it's like two other hotels that are connecting that. Like that was having just as big a party as my hotel was, but I didn't really think to go over there, and I didn't know they had night parties. So I never went out at night. I wore myself out so much just in the hotel partying in there. It never crossed my mind like, oh, there's like a rave outside with DJs, and there's like there was so much going on that I did not see because I just didn't. And I thought I was in everything. I thought I was up until like 3 a.m, like every night. And I was like, I've seen it all. But there's so much I didn't see or didn't get to experience. So the night rays are on my list for the next time I go. I have to make another prop that glows.
Yeah, so that's really interesting because obviously I haven't been to an anime con in a while. And when I used to do anime cons, I do Comic Cons, and I go as a fan, I go as a panelist. Not a paid one, but as a fan panelist because I get a free ticket. And it goes a long way when tickets are $80. I mean, you get like 2 free tickets. It's a lot of money. But since COVID, I haven't been to a con, and I'm probably not going to go to a con until next summer. Just because new job, other stuff's coming up, and I would like to not wear myself out on the weekends, and then be limping into work. And people are like, "What'd you do, Andrew, this weekend?" Like you just see me limping in, like. was like, I went to a Comic-Con, guys.
I have been
It's not
experiencing
that
this little.
short.
I was having an experience. I was starting to experience this little bit of okay, what's the next con? Like I have to find what the next con. I have to make a build like before that next con, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Like I can literally just wait till next year and just go to Dragon Con again and just give myself like that much time to like build the next thing. And I've already had like thoughts of what my next build will be. So I'm like, I have another year to like figure that stuff out. So just wait
Let
until
me
then.
ask you this question, because one of the things that happened to me as a panelist is that I was getting and going to a lot of cons. I was getting to the point of just burnout and
Yeah.
tiredness, and even on this show, sometimes I get to the point of burnout. And so, there was an idea of you got to take a few weeks off, or even that. And so, what is that like for you? Because obviously, if you're waiting to just do Dragon Con again, or you're spacing it out, because I know people who from like pretty much May to October do like a con every other
Like
weekend.
their season.
And it's like a season. I'm like, yo, you're gonna burn yourself out. Not to mention cons are expensive too. Forget about the building the cosplay. I mean, you got to stay in a hotel. Even if you're local, food's expensive. You got to get there, and it's tiring. I mean, it's time and other stuff. And like, how are you dealing with that? Or again, has that not come up yet? Because I think it's a real issue sometimes that people
I,
don't express.
I think it is. I think it's one of those things. I feel like I'm at that stage where I'm trying to savor the newness and the freshness of it all so much that like some of the more realistic things I'm not really focused on, like the ticket to get there, the cost of the hotel, the cost of like the stuff, the bill, like the shipping. Like I live in Los Angeles and Atlanta, so my build was in Los Angeles, and I had to ship like all of that stuff to Atlanta, and like that was a ridiculous amount of money. So I haven't. So I'm aware of the cost, but they haven't set in my mind for like, okay, the next con I have to go to, I have to think about this. And because it's still a hobby for me, which is why I can wait till next year, I don't feel like a time pressure, like, okay, I have to save it for this con. I have to save it for that con. I need to think
Yeah.
about that.
Do you feel that, obviously, this isn't your profession. You're not there to make money, and that this is, just fun money, where there gets to a point where I have hobbies that I thoroughly enjoy. I'm a big baseball card collector. Now, eventually I will make money, but I just bought a blaster box or something of some Topps Chrome cards. And I'm obviously aware that it was $32, but I'm not looking, oh my God, I gotta make my money back with my $32. I'm like, I'm gonna open these cards up and have a good time. I'm like, oh smoke, I got this card. And I might talk to a few of my friends who are doing it, and we're gonna have like a conversation. We might do it live. I don't know, but again, it's a hobby because I'm enjoying card collecting. Um, and so I'm not viewing it the same way, where it's not in my business expenditure account. Is that what this is for you right now? Versus saying, or just are you just enjoying the moment and saying, well, life's short, and I'm going to just have a fun time with it. Because I think that's a problem right now in pop culture collectively, is that too many people don't know how to not savor the moment, but have a good time with something.
No, I think there is the the capitalist part of my mind that is thinking is like, you're putting time to this. How do you monetize this? Because you're putting too much time and energy for this, for it not to pay back in some sort of dividend, even if it's not. I'm not discounting the mental enjoyment I'm getting out of it. But I am kind of what is the plus and minus of all of this, and the more time and energy I put and money I put into a thing, what am I getting back from it? But right now, this stays the cost of all of this stays comfortably enough in my in my I don't want to say disposable income, but it stays comfortably enough in my income where it's not an issue. It's just something that
I'll throw a phrase out, right? So this is how I view it. This show and some other of my hobbies. My hobbies are cheaper than therapy.
there you
And
go. That's perfect.
and me buying a $450 Lego set that's going to keep me busy for 80 hours over the course of 4 months is cheaper than therapy.
I
And
completely
notice
understand.
it makes me not jump off a bridge. I mean,
I
I
understand
want to
that.
make this crystal clear. I'm not suicidal before anybody gets worried, but it's an expression. But it definitely keeps me in check, and it keeps me grounded. Is a good way to
Absolutely.
put it. And that might be worth, if you spend $2,000 on a hobby, but guess what? It keeps you grounded, and it keeps you going to work on Monday, and you don't curse when you're in 4 hours of traffic on Monday morning, you know what it is? Maybe it's worth it. You know what I mean?
That build during the pandemic, especially when the lockdown was really starting, when we are literally like, you can go nowhere, like you can't go outside, and we were in those long spans of time just being locked down. There's just so much YouTube and Netflix and everything else that you can do, and after a while, you just go stir crazy. So that build was one of the things that kind of kept me staying. I was like, I need somewhere to put this energy. I need somewhere to put my mind from why and some I love my job. I love my work. But computers and running code, that can be mind numbing. It becomes just mind numbingly dull. So sometimes I just need to put my mind into a space where I feel creative. I feel, like I'm making these inroads and I'm challenging myself to do different things, because building that cosplay taught me to do a lot of other things. Like I'm working with rewiring stuff. Like now I know how to wire stuff. Like now I know how to set up a remote control. Like all these things, I'm like, this might come up in some different way somewhere there on my life. So this thing that I'm doing is teaching me new experiences and teaching me new talents and skills. So it's paid for itself in dividends in that way. So for me, it justifies itself in me doing it. So I kind of look at it like that.
It's good and it's fascinating, and I think that that's something that is very important at this point. And I think that
Absolutely.
a lot of people who enjoy cosplay. I mean, it's hard to make money directly in cosplay. It's hard to make money in podcasting, let alone those three sectors are really, really hard to make real money in. And I know because I'm in that space and I've been in for a while, and unfortunately, it's bigger and I could rant for hours on it. But, I mean, the basic premise is that people appreciate shows, but they don't want to pay for it, or they don't want to support it, or you don't have a big enough sponsorship or viewership for sponsors to be interested. And then when you pitch, they're like, well, we want a big viewership. And I'm like, okay, problem solved. I get it. But then they go and I said, can you afford to pay for Joe Rogan? Like, we can't afford that either. I'm like,
right.
Well, what do you want? I mean, you want somebody who's doing 40,000 plays who's going to charge you $20 a minute. That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I have a unicorn. Would you like to buy it from me? Okay. Yeah, I could sell you a bridge in Brooklyn too if you're at it. But I digress right there. But
I always kind of feel like I have been fortunate enough to be able to monetize something I enjoy doing anyway. But once you monetize the thing that you enjoy doing, it was work before, but now it becomes real work. Now it becomes like I'm responsible for this thing on deadlines of other people and and I'm at the stage now where I'm enjoying just doing cosplay, and because it's not monetized, there's nothing over my head to get anything done. This is pure enjoyment. So I always kind of try to balance how much do I want to just enjoy this thing that I'm doing just for the pure enjoyment of it, or how much do I want to turn this into a thing that becomes something that I can make income off of? But now it's that thing. Now it's the work thing.
It's tricky. It's tricky because I monetize the hobby, and I thoroughly enjoy running my eBay business, and I make a good chunk of change from it. I make 5 figures in profit off of it every year.
Yeah, awesome.
I mean, I'm really good at it. I'm really good at it. In profit, the business is self-sufficient, and everybody in indie comics should be looking at me. I crack the code, but I don't even make 5 figures off of that. I make a lot more than that on that business. But
sweet. See, all this kind of thing makes me like, you need to monetize this stuff. It's like, well,
but I don't monetize this, and I tried, and I had sponsors before, and look, I'm open to sponsors, but again, the way this show works is that every guest is my choice.
Awesome.
Very rarely.
Awesome. Yeah. You're not going to get, I'm not a name draw, so I'm appreciate you having a conversation with me.
Every guest is my choice now. It's invitation only. I ran a Kickstarter in January, but those people, if somebody wants on my show and I don't want you on my show, you could pay to buy it and get a spot on my show. That's the way it works. I don't want you on my show, I'll interview you if you pay me. It's just the way it is if I don't want you on my show.
That's cool.
Because it's my fucking show. It's 10 years of me doing this. It's my call, and it's nothing personal. And guess what? I need money to operate. It's nothing personal. It's not against anybody, but it's expensive to run shit. This is not free.
And it's
It's
your
not
thing.
free. StreamYard is not free. My effort's not free. My research is not free. And I'm not pitching you to give me money. Don't worry about that. But I'm reminding people that I said at the top of this show that if you like something, you have to support it. And I don't really care if you love She-Hulk and you want to support Disney. If that's what you want to support and you love it and you want to see season 2 of She-Hulk, be my guest. If that's where you want to throw your $8 to, I'm not going to stop you. I'm going to support you on that. But if you also like this show and you want this show to continue, then throw me $8. And if you want, obviously Darien's cosplays to continue, throw him money too. Because if you don't, this stuff doesn't continue. It doesn't get made, and that's the whole point. But anyway, I digress. What's your next cosplay?
Uh,
You could take the fifth. You could take the fifth. I mean, we could go
oh
wild
no,
and out if you want. We could go
no,
wild and out if you want. Take the fifth.
no. I actually have no. It's funny. I have a few. I have a folder on my laptop of where I just kind of dump different cosplay. I did different images of people that I'm thinking about doing. I think the last one I dumped in there was Dazzler. So there's like 15 people that I'm trying to, like John Constantine is one. I was going to do Black Adam, but then the movie trailer came out and I didn't like that. So I was like, I don't want to do that one now. I was thinking about doing, what's Demon Slayer? The lead kid.
Oh yeah. I know the lead kid. I just don't know off the top of my head his name.
I was thinking about doing him. There's one on Magneto. So there's a bunch of different characters I'm kind of playing with in my head, but that's only based on there's either an image or a thing that I think I can do with that character that I haven't seen done yet that I want to see if I can pull off. And if I can pull the thing off, then I'll probably build the character all around it. I was thinking about this. I think I figured out this lighting thing that I can do to portray Sync from the Xmen's power. But I'm not sure if I can pull it off. So that's just trying to see where my head can like actually come up with and build.
No. That's exciting, and obviously it's fun, and so obviously there's a lot of stuff going on with you and what you're doing and all that stuff, and obviously I'm sure that there's more stuff, and I think you only have like 3 or 4. I think like you don't have that many cosplays, which is crazy, but
No.
you got a lot of stuff to talk about, and there's a lot of reason. And again, my Ferrari fund is still open if anybody wants to. It's going to be beyond a paywall, guys. I'm telling you. You're going to get so many interesting conversations out of me over 80 hours of me just playing with Legos. It's going to be
That's
great.
awesome. That's right. You can make like an ASMR kind of thing. Just like have some silent build of you Lego and just having a drink in the background there.
It's going to be my thoughts for 80 hours. Just sitting at my kitchen table with like some alcohol in a glass, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be like everything that he's building, and I'm gonna put it on OnlyFans, and like it's gonna be like a weekly show for like 52 weeks. If you're gonna be like, dude, this is brilliant. It's gonna be like $3 on OnlyFans.
I feel like at the beginning. I'm witnessing the beginning of a great idea.
Oh, it's gonna be epic. It watch it, like I'm gonna be like the biggest draw on OnlyFans. Just watch me ascend. Just watch. I'm so sick of beautiful women on OnlyFans, and this is the exact opposite.
You'd be surprised. It might be one of those random things that all of a sudden goes by. Remember when I can't remember what site it was, but some dude, I think it was Kickstarter, but he put up just a potato salad recipe, and all of a sudden, like people just thought it was a meme. It was like, I'm giving you like $2 million for it now. So you never know. Give things a shot, and people was like, I like this because it's meme worthy, so I'm gonna just give money to it. You never know.
But I digress. I definitely, though, do want to give you an opportunity to promote yourself. I'm sure when you have a 5th cosplay, you will be back. If you want to come back, because I'm at least good for another season. I'm good for another season on this show.
I should have another cosplay in at least a season.
I have the funding for season 4, so that's what it really comes down to.
There you go.
That my Kickstarter in January actually funded season 4.
Awesome.
And I got a lot of shit for my Kickstarter, but people don't understand that I funded season 4, which is another 150 to 170 interviews. And
that's awesome.
That's what people don't understand, is that you need money to operate. And if you don't want to support this show, then, And I'm employed. I wasn't employed when I ran my shit in January. So
Oh,
that's the other thing too, is that people have to understand that I got myself out of a fucked up situation and I was able to survive. So
awesome.
deserve credit where credit's due.
I'm a
But
big fan.
anyway,
I'm a big believer in that skill has value. So if you have a skill and you want to, partake in someone's skill, then there's a value to that. So good for you.
or even just getting out of a situation and realizing that you didn't know when you were going to be employed and you needed to buy time. You know what it is? Sometimes you're on a Kickstarter, and sometimes you know what it is? Some people get it, and some people don't. And you know what it is? I deserve a lot of credit for what I did, and I took a lot of shit for it. But guess what? I'm still here.
You got it.
So I don't know, man. I don't know.
Something's working.
But anyway, chance to promote you. Where could people find you? Where could people bother you? Where could people support you? Your cosplays, all your shit. Obviously, you're gonna go create a buy me a coffee and PayPal and all that stuff right after we're done here. So where can people support you? Because it is very important. I feel now.
Honestly, like right now, people can follow me. I have everything, all my social media. The small imprint that I have is completely open. My Instagram handle is nerd underscore the underscore endless. So nerd of the endless. I'm a big Neil Gaiman fan. I used to geek out on the Sandman, so it's based off of Dream of the Endless and the Endless trilogy that Neil Gaiman wrote, which is an excellent Netflix show. So I'm also open on Facebook, Darien Turner on Facebook. So you can find me in those places. I'm literally a boomer. Like I don't have a bunch of social media presence, but I welcome anyone to come by and say, I like your cosplay or I like the cookies on your website. And, there you go.
Well, as I've been saying, you have to support indie content creators. You have to support cosplayers, and that you do need to, if they have merch or they have Buy Me a Coffee or they have PayPal or they have whatever, you do need to support that. If they don't, you should be following them on social media because it does make a difference. You should like their posts. It does make a huge difference. And when they do eventually monetize in some fashion or whatnot, you should be supporting them there because, again, content doesn't get made without money. And even without money, content gets made. But money helps, and even a little bit helps. You'd be surprised. It doesn't cost a lot of money on a Kickstarter, and I'm using Kickstarter as an example to throw $1 in. And if you get enough small dollars, they become big dollars. And that's the thing about Buy Me a Coffee and a variety of other things is $5 here, $1 there. It adds up. It adds up, and as you don't know where if somebody, 100 people give $100, it might help to get a piece of a cosplay done, and it might actually speed it up. And so that's the other thing too. So if you want to see content, definitely support it. But that's all I'm going to say. And again, it doesn't cost much to follow somebody on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or whatnot. It doesn't cost much. So if you can't do that, a click of a button, I don't know what to say. But anyway, enough about that. And I'm going to talk about myself for 1 second. Obviously, you can follow me on Pop Anime Comics on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, anywhere else where social media is. I'm under Pop Anime Comics. Simple. It sounds like it's spelled POPANIMECOMICS. Again, you can follow me there. I've got a lot of cool stuff going on. I also have a comic book investing class coming. It got delayed a few weeks. It will be out at the end of October. I had a Mac issue that's now fixed, so we're actually 65% done. It's just a matter of getting that final, 35% covered. And it got delayed by about 2-3 weeks. So, that's coming. I teach the basics. So if you want to learn how to invest and make money in comics or get a slight education on it and learn the basics, my class is for you. We start, if you have no knowledge, you'll be fine. If you have some knowledge, you'll be fine. If you're an expert, you're still going to learn something. A lot of cool stuff's in that class and a lot of fun stuff. There's actually a very valuable formula in that class. I also have Buy Me a Coffee. So if you'd like to support this show, you're more than welcome to support this show in that regard. That way, I will eventually run another Kickstarter for this. So if you're interested in that too, that's out there. And there is a project that I'm probably going to kickstart in July of next year. And I'm going to get a lot of shit for it too. But again, I'm a genius. So, well, if you went back, you're just not a genius. So I'm sorry to say that, and I apologize in advance. And it's gonna be great. It's gonna be fun, and it's gonna be funny, and so many people are gonna hate me, and so many people are gonna love me, and I'm bringing fun back to comics. I'm putting the FU back into comics with an N. So keep that in mind, everybody. And yeah, that's all I got. So I'm gonna give you the final word.
I don't know what I can say after I'm a genius and you're not, but thank you for having me on here. This is amazing. This goes up there with some of the great experiences I've had in my life. Now I can check this off my bucket list. So thank you for having me.
Well, I don't think I could have said that any better. I'm gonna take the compliment. And so everybody, that is a wrap